All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Two Men in Black and White, an honest conversation, the only, and I repeat, the only podcast where a black man and white man can have an honest conversation about the state of today's politics and today's world affairs without getting offended and upset with each other and wanting to throw blows. Me and my man BG, the Uptown point guard, have been friends, wow, since the set, and we have known and loved each other, been to combat together on the hallowed hall in the hallowed halls of the county center in Westchester County, New York. Brock, I'm going to tell you what, Rick Shelton and I were just having a conversation about that county center loss to JFK and how much it hurt. Wow. And I got to tell you, my friend, it still stings. 40 years later.
It still bothers me.
42 years later.
And I got outplayed. And so that really bothers me.
We all did. We all did.
I know, but Parker's killed us.
To a team that we could have beat. I thought it was Chris Elser that killed us. But nonetheless.
He knocked down.
Nonetheless.
He should have been going to our school. He had one of those vouchers going to private school.
Exactly.
He should have been on our team.
Exactly. He should have been on our team. Exactly. He thinks we don't know that. We're going to revoke that voucher next time we see him. But we've been friends forever and a day. We've had respect for each other and each other's culture. And I think Donald Trump brought us back together again because we realized how fragile the state of black and white relations really are and how far apart we are when it comes to conversations. There are so few of us having honest conversations with each other that don't result in HR write-ups and discussions and uncomfortable conversations, as my boss used to call them, around race. And, you know, I just thought people were people because that's what I was taught in my home, right? And my dad used to say, jackasses come in all shapes, sizes, and colors, right? You have to judge people based on the way they treat you, right? So I didn't like the people that didn't like me. It didn't matter, you know, where they were from, what they looked like, what their background was, what their ethnicity was. Didn't matter. I like people who like me. Black, brown, white, indifferent. It just didn't matter. And unfortunately, we've gotten away from that because it appears that hate sells.
Has been shaping, race has been shaping politics and society in America from day one. And as much as we thought we were in sort of the golden age of progress, right? Our lifetimes, right? Probably more progress in our lifetimes than the 200, 180 years before it. We saw how fragile it is and how beneath the surface the same sentiments still were, and how easy it was for, in essence, a right-wing racist regime and methodology to work its way into power in America. And it's sad, but that's clearly where we are. Right. Absolutely. I mean, we're up to our eyeballs in it now. And there's no one that can deny it anymore either. I mean, it's so out in the open. It's so blatant. It's kind of we're in a racial, not a racial reckoning, right? We're in a race war right now. I mean, Project 2025 is like a declaration of war on a multicultural society.
And the funny thing is they told us what they were going to do long before the election, and people voted for it anyway. They're just kidding. They're just kidding with that hatred doctrine. That's not coming to pass.
Yeah, and Trump pretended like he didn't endorse it. Like he knew nothing about it. I don't know what those guys are doing, right?
Right.
It's such bullshit. And the people let him lie his way through that. And now he's a tottering buffoon, mental decline, like falling apart, like on his racist wonderland. But those geniuses behind him who wrote the blueprint are executing every day.
Right. Let's get into it a little bit too with some of the comments that we received after the Minneapolis shooting, or people are just, bent out of shape with us because we feel like not everybody needs a weapon of war. I don't happen to have one. I got a shotgun. I got a pistol. I don't need an AR-15. Even if I was a hunter, I'm not shooting Bambi with a submachine gun, whatever that happens to be. I mean, what's going to be left of them? What's going to be like, why do you need these? I just saw a football player at LSU get picked up for having an AR-15 in his dorm room. What do you need? That's not personal protection. What are you kidding me, son? Like, what is our fascination with weapons? My son had one, my oldest son, fascinated with weapons, fascinated. And I don't get it. We didn't even have them in my house, right? So I don't even know where he got it from.
I didn't grow up with guns, so I don't have the fascination. I don't understand how, I guess I do understand, but the discussion on guns with the Second Amendment and NRA, like they craftily over decades navigated or turned this discussion, started it so far to the right that like we got off of that even like basic conversation on gun control is talking about the most inane shit in the world, like the starting place. So we're starting from at bump stocks. We're starting from magazines that hold like 200 bullets, like things that absolutely no citizen should need in civil society. Like
right.
even arguing about bans on those types of weaponry
right.
is like considered like stepping on the Second Amendment. Not to mention the AR-15s. When the discussion should be starting at the point of, should anyone be able to have a gun? And what should be the stipulations, the hurdles that somebody has to jump over in order to have the privilege of owning a weapon that can so easily kill other people? So that's where the discussion would start. Instead, we start that everyone should be able to get any weapon that can do any amount of damage without any checks, any rules, any regulations is where we start. So compromise even gets us to a fucking ridiculous place. And that's, just the left's lost this issue so bad, got so fucking early destroyed on this issue, and they still can't talk about it in any bold way. It's still like, I'm a proud gun owner, or I'm a this, I'm a that, or we're not coming to take your guns away. Why shouldn't we be taking guns away from some people? That guy in Minneapolis should have his gun taken away. He's on the internet ranting and raving and telling the world that he's going to do like a school shooting.
Right.
Why does that person still have the right to have a weapon of war? Like, he advertised that he was going to go kill kids.
Right.
What the
Brock,
fuck? We can't even talk about that.
Right. I sat in a room full of African-American men last night, about 10 of us, watching a football game. We had a very eclectic group. We had a doctor. We had a Gulf War veteran. We had a trucking company owner. We had an NBA executive from the National Basketball Association. You should have heard the conversation around gun ownership. It was all over the map, all over the map. And me and one other gentleman who happens to be a trucking company owner got into it about the ability to own weapons, right? Because remember the Appalachia shooting here in Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, about 40 miles outside of Atlanta. His son happened to go to a school connected with that high school. And in the same breath, he was arguing that, this family had the right to buy weapons, but, the father should be prosecuted, which he is being prosecuted for purchasing the weapon for this unstable kid, right? And he was arguing in the same... Hold it. Why? How can you say that the father should be allowed to purchase this weapon, but then this kid got a hold of it, went out and started shooting up a school, and it's still okay for hold it. Why is this father allowed to purchase a weapon when he's got an unstable child in his home, right? Like, you can't have it both ways. And that's the left's loss on messaging. Remember how often we keep talking about the left losing the message battle, right? It gets late early with the left on their messaging and their leadership, right? We had The Rock out here touting gun ownership after that shooting, in support of gun ownership, right? In the face of law enforcement who said this is not what gun ownership is about. This is not what responsible gun ownership is about. I no longer watch Ballers, because I can't do The Rock anymore, who supported Trump, who supported gun ownership immediately after a school shooting in a rural setting. This is 40 miles outside of Atlanta, right? You go 40 miles outside of Atlanta, you're in farm country, right? You're in chicken processing country. You're in a rural setting. It doesn't take 40 miles. You can get 30 going west on I-20. You're damn near in Alabama. So I just don't understand how, now, because black men know what it's like to carry a weapon, right? And the potential ramifications, right? Remember the gentleman in Minneapolis who said, oh, by the way, I have a weapon. It's in here. Boom, 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 right? What was that? What was his name? Oh,
Was that Castillo? Was that Philando Castillo?
Yes, yes. Remember that. He was a registered gun owner, had permission to have it, and they killed him anyway. So how can we be all over the map on this issue? But we're just like the rest of America, all over the map.
I get it. I mean, I would think black people, it's a double-edged sword. You're worried about protection because you're worried there's a lot of people out there looking to harm you, so you want a firearm for personal protection. On the other hand, when you get any type of interaction with law enforcement, having that weapon, like there's no real registered ownership for black people. Like once you have a weapon, like you're a threat and you're going to get shot at. Like each carries its risks. But no community is safe. Like there's shootings anywhere. Like you mentioned that one. It got me to, as soon as you said it, it's like, wow, there have been so many school shootings. I can't remember all the schools anymore. But, I'm disappointed in the generation the school shooting generation that hasn't moved the needle on this issue. Because by now, they should be a majority and an overwhelming force. And they should be making sure that any candidate in any election that they're even close to has gun control as a part of their platform. And they faded and they disappeared and they didn't vote that way and still don't vote that way, or they just ignore voting, thinking that they can't do anything about it. But after the Parkland shooting, right, millions of kids marched in DC, and you thought there was maybe a chance for movement.
Right.
But it's just another place where the right has outflanked the left. Just totally outplayed them. Just like with the courts, just like with reproductive rights, got outplayed by the right, trusted maybe somewhere along the way, or didn't have the conviction to follow through and say what really needs to be said about gun control. And it's not just like, oh, wow, we won a battle. There's no more fucking bump stocks. It's like, I'm talking about well, it's the only product you don't need, right? You don't need insurance on it.
Right.
Why do you not need insurance on a gun? It can do so much damage. You need it on your car, but the gun can do so much damage. How about some liability?
Right.
That'll make some people think, do I really want to have this? I mean, the fact that we have open carry is the dumbest thing any civil society has ever agreed to. Like you're literally walking down the street and you have people with AK-47s cruising around you, like you're online getting a coffee and the guy behind you has bullets over his shoulder and an AK-47. Well, God forbid you bump into him with a hot coffee, right? He's going to shoot up the whole place? How does anyone live that way? How does anyone live in a state with open carry?
Bro, look, I never owned a weapon until I moved back to Georgia for my second stint here, okay? You go into stores here, it says no weapons on the door. You think anybody's paying attention to that when the weapon is tucked under their flannel shirt or under their rawhide vest? Nobody's paying attention to that law. I don't know if those buzzers will go off at the door. I don't know what kind of metal detection Walmart has at the front door. You got a Walmart greeter there. He's not packing. She's not packing. It just makes no sense to me. We're the only industrialized nation that allows it, right? You can't own a weapon in the UK. You can't own a weapon in New Zealand. You can't get weapons of mass destruction just any place you feel like it except the US.
I know, it's so bad. So Tim Walz up there as the governor, right? And the Jacob, whatever, the mayor of Minneapolis, or, I see some clips they're saying oh, now is the time for gun legislation. Okay, well, now's a better time than never. So yeah, okay. But no, the time was 30 years ago. And now you're saying it's the time because the shooting happened in your neighborhood. But there's going to be another shooting 2 days from now happening in another neighborhood. And they're going to say now is the time, right? Yeah, it's long past the time. But which of these politicians is going to say, this is the fucking platform. This is what I am endorsing. And have a serious platform that challenges people. I think the left is afraid of the voters, afraid of not looking strong enough, weak and woke, and won't actually, full-throatedly argue for really, really aggressive gun reform. And it's similar in other issues.
Yeah, where's the medical community on this? Because I remember doing stories where these urban trauma centers talked about the damage these high caliber weapons were doing and how much it was costing cities like Atlanta, right? We have a saying in my household, hey, if I get shot, get me to Grady. You know, do what you got to do to get me to Grady. Right? Grady is one of the best training hospitals. It's the only, I think, level 5 trauma centers in the southeast region of the country. And, they're the best at treating for gunshot wounds. But I'm going to tell you this, Brock, it's not folks like me and you getting shot, right? Where we might have an insurance card to pull out when we come to, right? Most folks taking a bullet, right, are probably not covered under Aetna or one of these Obamacare policies, right? So who pays for that? The American taxpayer pays for it.
It just gets buried into the bills, just like all the lawsuits that get paid out for like police brutality, right? They just cut checks. It just costs you more to be inside. But the reason like this, ultimately pisses me off is like the gun control topic is similar to the immigration topic. It's similar to the topic of race. These are the topics that people on the left, the Democratic Party, is afraid to talk about honestly. And no one's willing to go out and say, I'm pro-immigration. No one's willing to go out and say, my vision of America is this fantastic multicultural, multiracial America where everyone with true equality, and we're going to put these programs in place. Bringing DEI back, that's step one. That's the simplest part. Like, we're going to have all kinds of programs that are going to make America a more equal setting for all people. And we're going to welcome immigrants in because we're a land of immigrants. And we're going to have gun control policy that actually keeps us alive and improves the quality of life. We're not going to, the 98% of us are not going to have a shittier quality of life and more likelihood of random death of us and our loved ones because there's this fanatical 2% that feels like they need to have like fucking rocket launchers in their fucking backyard or on the back of their truck. Because show me where the line is on what's considered a firearm that the Second Amendment won't protect. But you got to just say that shit and say, we're fucking going to revolutionize American society. Not just, we got to get rid of bump stocks.
Right.
Or we got to, give a little more money here or there to a couple black people on the side. Right? Or that like, we can let in like the right people in immigration, but not those wrong people. Like having like a true immigration policy. And and DACA people are fucking going to become citizens. And we're going to fucking do what's right. But on all of these topics, the left won't fucking say it and just challenge the American people to come along with them.
And Brock, here's the sad part. Common sense should prevail in all these issues. Race, gun violence, right? DEI, immigration, right? We've got National Guard troops raking leaves in Washington, D.C. at what, $100 an hour, right? When we know that there are plenty of Latino-owned businesses that are doing well, that would probably save them, what, $85 an hour? They pay their guys, what, $15 an hour, $20 an hour? You can save $75, $80 an hour, but yet, note to Doji. Yeah, here's some ridiculous waste.
While Trump makes up fucking crime statistics and fakes a crisis.
Oh my God, yes.
And everyone knows he's faking the crisis. It's just the MAGA world's playing along. They know it's bullshit. They're just playing along because they like the outcome, and the left's not strong enough to counter-argue.
Yeah. Hey, let's touch on this because this has got me really hacked off from my sister from Howard University. Kamala Harris has lost her Secret Service detail because of retribution. John Bolton had his home raided, just like Cankle's McTaco Tits had his home raided, right? And I was listening to the Mea Culpa podcast with Joy Reid. They were talking about Michael Cohen, and Joy were talking about Michael Cohen had a list of people that are in trouble. Guess who was on it? Letitia James, Miles Taylor, potentially journalists, anyone with sensitive information or secrets that the Donald might target.
Jack Smith. Litigators.
Yes. Yeah. Jack Smith. I mean, the list was long and distinguished. And my thing is, are we living in Russia now? I don't understand. why America is standing back and watching him persecute the people who are upholding the rule of law. Letitia James, really? Because you got busted and you were convicted, right? Because you're a simpleton that's always gotten away with shit. And now somebody wants to hold you accountable. And now you want to go. See, it's all about retribution. And remember, Brock, this is the first time Donald Trump has been a billionaire, right? It took him shaking down the apparatus of our federal government and countries near and far to become a billionaire. Guy doesn't know how to make any fucking money. I had this argument with this truck company owner last night. Donald Trump is not a good businessman. You can't be a good businessman when people give you money and expect absolutely nothing in return. You just can't do it.
What would happen if John Bolton mysteriously fell out of a fifth-story window and died? Would America do anything? Because that's Russia, right?
You mean like Alex Navalny?
Yeah. What would happen in America?
Yeah.
Just, we'd shrug our shoulders and say,
Yep.
That's a tough break. I mean, why is Kamala Harris losing her Secret Service detail, right? I mean, Trump wants her intimidated, right?
Yep.
He wants her to get shot.
Wants her afraid.
Right? Yep. I mean, he doesn't want her protected. He wants her afraid.
And this is Russia, right? Donald Trump is Putin light, But Donald Trump at least has the pressure of the presidency and the pressure of the media on him. Well, a portion of the media, right? Independent media is wailing on this guy, right? Because we all know that he's a clown. And, that's the thing that keeps him up at night, right? Tweeting this ridiculousness about Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel, right? In the middle of the night. Why is Cankles McTaco Tits not getting some freaking medication or some sort of blood transfusion, right? Or cutting his ankles to let him bleed out? I mean, what is wrong with us that we sit back and let a D- student, a guy who got by on a Nepo baby, getting by, like ruining this country? Have you seen international student visas being just rejected left and right? International student registrations plummeting, right? That's the lifeblood of these colleges, Brock, because they pay full freight.
And the best and the brightest aren't going to want to come here, and very often they stay and are engines of American innovation, which is why we're at the top of the heap on sciences and technology. We're not going to be if we're not attracting the best and brightest from all over the world. That was one of the great advantages of America. Best education, secondary education systems, and the freedom and our capitalist system all coming together to attract the best and the brightest. And it kept us on the front edge of everything going on in the world. But that's not Donald Trump's leadership. We're going to step backwards. But it's always the racism, Mark. The answer is Trump is giving people what they want, enough of what they want to fuel them that they'll turn their head and take a blind eye to all those other aspects of American life that are in decline. And we just keep waiting for all these atrocities to stack up and hoping there is a straw that breaks the camel's back, meaning pushes complacent America far enough that we move from complaining to actually acting and confronting.
Right.
So I was happy to see the CDC employees all out on the street, cheering their compatriots who resigned, right? And you could just see the energy of people's need to be out there and to be making some kind of statement. But once again, it was docile. It was ceremonial. It was representative. It was an action, but it wasn't protest. It's not the sort of thing that changed anything or actually, countervailed any push from Project 2025.
Right. And we're still not getting healthier. We're getting actually more unhealthy, which really unnerves me. This was another topic that we broached last night with this really diverse group. Matter of fact, we had 4 or 5 Division I athlete fathers and 2 or 3 NFL fathers in this group. And we talked about, a lot of these issues. And, as parents, you're like, what are we doing for our future generation? What are we doing for our kid? We're not leaving this world better than we found it. right? Because we're still voting with hatred and not with our hearts, right? We're not setting up anything, right, for our kids to be better, to do better, right? To have a good, and I'm not talking about stuff. I'm not talking about owning shit. I'm not talking about having the biggest SUV on the block. I'm not talking about having the biggest yard, the biggest home. I'm talking about being healthy, right? Like, why, one of the biggest topics last night was why, is the mortality rate among Black women giving birth so high, right? Like, why is that such an issue for the richest country in the history of the world, right? And the way it impacts Black and brown people, right? And a lot of it has to do with prenatal care. I get it. But when you don't have quality health insurance and you don't have access to health insurance, how can you get quality prenatal care in this country?
You won't.
You can't do it. You can't do it. And that's why these NFL dads last night were saying, hey, son, I've been telling you, save your money. Save your money. You're going to need it to get ahead in this world. I mean, it's almost like the 1%ers are the only ones that have a chance to get ahead, right? A bunch of us had our kids come home, right, for a time after college just because it was too expensive.
Yeah,
and the jobs that were out there available couldn't pay for a decent quality of life. I mean, it's terrible. And we don't seem to mind. Why?
Because it's really, I think it's really scary alternative in the situation that we're in, right? I think it's just scared people to realize that they have to be out there in an aggressive fashion. It's so outside of anything we've done or have had to done in our lifetimes. And I think that's why it's taking so long to motivate any kind of true aggressive pushback. And the problem is every day it doesn't materialize. The entrenched power and protections get stripped of power. Entrenched power gets stronger and the protections get stripped away. And in essence, it's going to be harder to do. Every day it's going to get harder to do. And we're already scared right now of how hard it would be and what it would take. But a month from now, it's going to be harder. 6 months from now, it's going to be much, much harder. 12 months from now, when we either don't have elections or we see that they're so rigged that it doesn't even matter whether we have elections, where are we going to be at that point, right? Like, there's going to be so much money put into the civilian armies that it's going to be a tougher and tougher country to protest in.
Absolutely.
So every day we're making it a harder game down the road because we're afraid to do the fight. Now, maybe this was a summer swoon, and with after Labor Day, people kind of going back to schools and like work and normal life, it's going to trigger more flashpoints of where we get more anger. Because it's going to have to come from anger. People are just going to have to be so mad that they're willing to do shit they've never done in their lives.
Yeah, yeah. And never could
including
imagine.
Us, right? I include us in that, right? We're not preaching to others and not saying that like we are those others too, right? We're that same couple people who've lived comfortable lives that like don't really want to get out there. Now you as a Black man have obviously a higher risk factor of getting out there. Me as a white man never thought he'd ever have to do it and like can't believe that that's where this is going.
Right. Yeah, man. It is tough. It is tough. All right, quick hits before we get out of here. We're out of time.
Quick hit is we had an interesting note from someone who came on the message board. Most of it is total inane bullshit, right? Because when you're out on the internet, like you are dealing with everyone, the populace, the people, and you're going to get some crazy shit, right? The people who take the time, some of the stuff they take the time to write just amazes me. I'm like, scroll on by. But hey, for one person, it's just like, hey, if more people had a conversation like you guys had, right, the world would be in a better place. And when I responded back, I said, just understand one thing. And this is like my message to white people. It's like, this conversation isn't hard to have. You just have to stop like worrying about like that you're going to feel bad and just acknowledge that you live in a society that has been unequal from day one and is unequal and that you've been a beneficiary of it. Doesn't take everything away from you. It doesn't diminish any achievement you've had in your life.
At all.
Just understand that you had advantage. Like you played a lot, if it's sports terms, you played a lot of home games. So you won more games. But but the one thing I also remember every time I want people to think about is that when we click off this podcast every day, I go back to a society that is invested in my success. And I know that. and Mark doesn't. And that's the issue that people need to think about. Like, why is that? Yeah, we can bullshit and make and have fun with serious topics for 30 minutes, sometimes 40 minutes. But that's still the reality of America, and it's getting worse.
Worse. Right.
Not better. And that's what white people got to think about and like have to do something about.
Right.
Because, you know, there's a regime now that wants to make it worse. Not particularly for people of color. With venom, they want to make it worse for people of color. But they don't mind if they make it worse for just about everybody else. As long as there's a small cadre that are, you know, sitting at the top of that heap.
83 billionaires in this country running the joint.
Yeah, they're living large. They're loving it.
Living large, loving it, all the way to the bank. You know, Brock, I'll never forget a sign that was held up during the George Floyd protest because it touched me like nobody's business because I could totally relate. And it was a African-American man, rather large fellow. You could tell by the way he was, you know, relating to the other people in the photo. He held up a sign and it said, "I wish America loved me like they did when I played college football," right? Because, you know, we got Ohio State and Texas, the opening weekend of college football today, and everyone goes their separate ways after graduation, right? And black and white America never seem to meet in the middle, right? For conversations, or few and far between. Few and far between.
And everyone will go to these football games on all those campuses around the country and have solidarity for 3 hours and root for everyone the same, right? Because it's just the jersey. And then on Sundays, they'll go to their NFL team and do the same. But as soon as that buzzer sounds and everyone walks back to their car in the parking lot, too many, particularly of the white Americans that are like so busy rooting for whoever's wearing the jersey, they don't care about the color as long as it's their jersey, go back to regular life. And they leave that behind, right? They want regular life to be, you know, advantaged.
Right.
And that's, you know, that's a core problem.
Yes, sir. All right, bro. Well, you have a great day.
Okay.
Keep hope alive. And we'll get back here tomorrow and do it again, man. Let's get it cranked up.
All right. Mark, good to talk to you. Talk to you tomorrow.
Have a great day, buddies.